Monday morning. I have to say, Monday mornings are a hard time to do this. Anastasia's here. We run around the office like mad women, and then suddenly we're like, oh my God, it's 10 o'clock. So we sit down, and I'm still trying to get my heart to stop beating as we start Marketing Moms. So I'm Ann Brennan, and this is
Anastasia Van Greshby.
And we're the Marketing Moms. We're here to make marketing easy for you. It shouldn't be hard, but it isn't exactly easy. So we want to give you tips every single week that you can put to work for your business. We want to give you marketing things to think about, because a lot of times we're in business and we never even think about marketing our business. We don't think about growing it. We think about doing our heads down work, right? So we want to give you those tips that you can take away.
And we've even been guilty about that ourselves,
Oh my gosh.
And this is what we do for other people. We do a great job for other people. And then sometimes we're like, oh, why haven't we done that for us?
Yeah, well, I mean, here's a good example. This weekend, finally, almost a month later, I created graphics with our beautiful new photos that Maureen Porto did for us. And they've just been sitting there. We paid all the money for the photos, and they've just been sitting in a file. We've not used them other than for this intro and a couple other things. Exactly.
Yeah. We updated our profile pictures this week. So there you go.
There you go. Exactly. Anastasia updated our profile pictures, which is, I was like, suddenly went in, I'm like, oh my gosh, so many people are commenting. What are they commenting about? Oh, my profile picture. There you go. So thank you for that. I do want to remind you, you can subscribe on YouTube. If you keep subscribing, we can finally get to 1,000 followers on YouTube. And then my kids won't think I'm quite such a nerd, because my kids are much cooler than I am, but aren't they all? I also want to remind you that we're streaming live. We're streaming live on Facebook, several groups actually, and we're streaming live on YouTube and Twitter. So if you have questions, you can ask them. And when you do, if you leave the comment, leave a question, we can see that over on the right-hand side of our screen, and we can answer them. So if you say, why in the world do I want to do email marketing? We can tell you exactly why. And that's what our subject is today, is email marketing. So Anastasia, it's funny because this has become your baby, email marketing over here. So yeah. So why don't you talk a little bit about it?
And then also, whenever we go to conferences, this is my will. These are the lanes that I kind of go down. Email marketing. I mean, email marketing, what is it, right? So it is using, you can either send out individual emails if your group is like 10 people, or you can use a platform like Robly or MailChimp or, I'm like blanking out.
Constant Contact.
Contact. There's so many different ones. All different kinds. Some of them have different features that you can use that are good. So, you kind of find one that you like and send out emails through it. So you get your email list. And actually, if you have a CRM that's connected to a system, then you can always use that too. So
exactly.
It's about communicating with your audience. So
exactly. And that's a good place to start when you're trying to decide which platform to use, right? If it doesn't connect to your CRM, it might not be the right one for you, because it's one extra step you have to take. If it's connected to your CRM, then when you put something in your CRM, that spills into your email list, and you're good to go. But if not, then maybe it's not the one for you. Maybe it is if it's got features that you really like. Actually, ours does not spill into our list.
You know what? Right when you said that, I was like, we have the capability of doing it. We need to switch to that.
Yes. But the problem is that we use Robly. We really like Robly. We get a pretty good open rate. We really get a good response from it. So it's hard to switch from that when you know that it's there.
And it's very user friendly. I love Robly. We have clients that come to us with other platforms, and I will always, if a client's already paying for something and they like it, I will try and use it. But
even though some of them will make us crawl under our desk and cry.
Yes, there are some that just are horrible. I wasn't going to name names, but you did go down that road. Like I really dislike using it. Especially if you're putting in a custom template that you have had created somewhere else, and like they code it, and I'm like, okay, it don't get me started. I have had the clients that take me the longest, the clients that are on MailChimp, and I have had emails get lost on MailChimp. So Yeah. And I'm like,
As you're editing them, they're just gone.
yeah. So
So
I don't understand.
it could drive you out of your mind.
MailChimp's going to be very upset with us now, but just make a platform that works. Like, they've been around for a long time, so I don't
Right,
understand
exactly.
why it doesn't work as well. Robly I really like. I think it's very easy to use, and it's it's just good. If
Yeah,
you're starting
exactly.
off, I would suggest doing that one.
Exactly. Now, this is the thing nobody likes to hear, but it is 100% true, especially I think if you're in the service industry. It is
Hmm.
so true in the service industry. You are forgettable. And I've said this before on this show, I've said it on our previous show. You're forgettable. And think about that. Think about you just yes, suddenly something happens in your house, you need an electrician, you need a plumber, you need an HVAC guy, maybe your HVAC guy you remember, but most of the time, you're like, who was that I used? Who was that person? And you forget, or you forget that it's time for a service, or you forget that you need something. And so, one of the best reasons to send out an email is that you are forgettable,
Hmm.
right? And that's something that you'll hear us say that open rates don't matter that much, and that's part of it. Sometimes you don't even have to open an email.
Absolutely.
So,
Here's a great
yeah.
example of that. I have one of our clients, Chimney Tech, came to my house in 2011, and he at the time was a smaller company. He's grown a lot since then.
Oh yes.
And he, I don't think, was using email back then, or he didn't input my email into his system if he was. And then the next year, I didn't know who I couldn't remember. I was pregnant at the time that he came. So the
Right.
next year when he came, I had when it was time, I had a newborn and two other kids running around. And so I didn't remember. So I looked up on the Facebook page for my neighborhood and found somebody else. And a couple of years ago, I was going through some paperwork in my office and I found the receipt from Chimney Tech. And I was like, oh, that's so funny because I didn't remember. There's so many companies for every service industry, right? And yeah,
Right.
I liked him a lot. And I needed to get some of the work done, but I couldn't remember what I had done with the paper and all that. And now we do his email. I do his emails every month. And I'm like, see, if I had had his email, I mean, because I will go back into my phone and search, chimney or, plumbing or whatever, just to see if a receipt comes up or an email comes up from a company. But I mean, right there, if he had had an email back then I would have known to call him straight away. And the same
Right.
with my HVAC company. Time flies. You think, like we were just talking the other day, the fire department came and I was like, but they were just here last month. And you were like, no, they were here in May, so it was six
Right.
months ago, but it feels like it was only a few weeks ago. So
Exactly.
my HVAC company, I forgot I was on a plan. And I'm like, why didn't you email me when my plan was up? Because I would have renewed it, you know?
Right.
I mean, this
Right.
company has since gone out of business, but that may have been a contributing factor because if you're not constantly touching base with your clients, then
Exactly. They go on to someone else, or
mhm,
they forget, or they don't do anything, right? So I do have a question. People will say, "Well, I don't think people want to get an email. They're tired of getting email. I can't stand all the emails in my inbox." But
yes.
how true is that?
Oh, it's absolutely untrue. um, for years, I was just reading an article this morning from Forbes magazine about the effectiveness of email marketing for small businesses. The people that they were talking to, 66% of those small businesses were using email marketing, and 79% said that their email marketing was either important or very important to their business. Now, millennials, they've surveyed them. 80% of them would prefer to receive an email from a business that's their primary form of communication from a business would be email. A lot of people are saying, there are people that are using text now. There are some clothing stores that I get text from. But then I feel like the text is, your text is like a quick communication between people that you want to be communicating with, right? So clogging up your text messages, that's not great either. So, I
Right.
mean, and the thing about email is if people don't want to receive your email, they can easily unsubscribe.
Right.
So,
Yeah, and there are some that I don't open, or seldom open, but I don't
mhm,
unsubscribe because I'm like, I don't want to forget about them. I might want
definitely.
that. Like Harry and David. Harry and David's a great one, right? I hardly ever order from them, but I'm really glad when it pops into my inbox and tells me, "Oh, by the way, it's a National Employee Appreciation Day coming up." Oh,
Mhm,
okay, let me order that. Right? It's a
yeah.
nice little reminder. So, or whatever it is that it's going to remind me of. So, those kind of things I keep in my inbox. I definitely want to see it. So one of the things that we want to talk about before we really dig in deep into email marketing is what you have to do before you dig in deep, which is
Mhm.
have a clearly defined goal. What do you want from your email marketing? Are you trying to get new customers? Are you trying to get people to come to your website? Are you trying to sell a product? What are you actually doing with your email? So, Anastasia, what are some of your thoughts on the ways you can use this?
So I think for the most part, if you are in the service industry of any kind, whether it be home services or even professional services, most likely your goal is going to be to have people come to your website, right? So for
Right.
them to come and see what you're doing and to look into your services. You know, we have our blogs. A lot of our clients that we send newsletters out for have blogs, and so we're driving them through the newsletter in back up to the website to look at the blogs, and then you hope they kind of stick around on there. If you're a retail business, then you're probably trying to get people to buy stuff, right? Or you're trying to get them to attend events. So it just depends on what your goal is. And that goal is going to drive the content of your email and the subject of your email, and then how you look at the analytics.
Exactly. And I want to go back to what you said about the service industry. So, somebody said to me, that when I'm selling an HVAC, this is one of my HVAC customers. He said, if I'm selling an HVAC system, that's once every few years. And people when they have to make the decision kind of suddenly.
Mhm.
So I just want to be in there. So when that happens, right. And I want them to want to open my emails when that happens, which means I want to give, give, give. I want to give them information that helps them with their house. I want to give them information for what to do as winter's coming up. All of those things, I want to be the expert in my field. We do the same thing. We send out an email, right? Once a month, we send out an email, and ours is actually a little differently designed than some of our clients in that we give them it's an email letter, and it describes something that we're doing currently that we think is important to them, but almost always it will lead them back to the website. The biggest thing though is that they look at it, and when they're ready for somebody to do their social media marketing, their email marketing, build their website, they think, oh, I'm going to call Anne because she knows what to do,
Mhm.
right? And that's what you want.
Definitely. Yeah,
Yeah.
so you're trying to I think the goal with any kind of marketing is to, like, we say it all the time, don't sell, 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 educate, give things to if you want people to read your emails, then it shouldn't be about you and about what you're doing. It's about how you can help them. And sometimes it's giving away free advice, like we're doing right now. So we're marketing our
Exactly.
business by giving you, the audience, something to do for your business. Something's going to help
Absolutely.
you.
Yeah. All right. So we talked a little bit about having your email lists updated,
Mhm.
but it is important. A lot of times we'll have to beg clients to send us their list. What's your updated list? What do you have? Do you have an updated list right now? And we have to beg that of them. And it's so important, especially with new customers, that you get them in that habit of seeing your emails come through, right?
Definitely, definitely.
So,
Especially if you've gone and given them an estimate or something, and then you leave, and then a couple months later they're like, "Oh, we really need to do that," and then they may people are going to forget you. We've said that. I mean, we said that every time, right? So
right.
we're all forgettable, and you realize, you're like, next year I did tell somebody that we were going to do something, but I can't remember what company it was that I used. So, but by popping up in your email regularly, that does help. So
Absolutely.
keeping it up to date is very important.
Absolutely. All right. Also, the subject line. The subject line's really important. So some of the tips, it just shouldn't be too long.
Hmm.
It depending on your goal, it shouldn't be too salesy. If your goal is to sell a specific thing, we were talking about it earlier. If I get something from Victoria's Secret that says 5 pair of underwear for $20, I'm like, well, let me see, because I always need new underwear. Everybody does, right? So you might do that. But otherwise, make sure that it's not too salesy, that it's giving them something that they want to open, that they're really interested in right now.
Yeah,
Right?
avoid like 5 or 10 exclamation marks, like make
Exactly.
sure it's grammatically correct. Make sure that it's not all caps. There are things that you're going to do that I mean, there are gimmicks that people use and sometimes they work, but it depends on the brand on your brand. Make sure that
Right.
everything you do, whether it's the subject or the content, is on brand with you. Make sure it reflects your business, it reflects your core values, and it reflects what you're trying to achieve.
Absolutely. And I do want to go back to that. We said, make sure it's on brand, right? And so if you have a brand that's snarky or a brand that is I don't know what the word. Don't One of the things that we see is people who try to be very clever in their email marketing. And that's great, except I might not know what you're talking about and I might just skip right over you. Sometimes with the subject lines, you want to be kind of in your face. Why is there green stuff on my roof? Oh, well, I want to know that, right? What's
Mhm,
that green stuff on your roof? Oh, let me open that because I have green stuff on my roof right now, right?
mhm.
So try to give them what it is that they're going to probably ask you anyway. What question are you answering for them? Give them that in that subject line. So, um, Anastasia, I put this in here and I think I've put it in the wrong place, but it's just a real quick reminder to our nonprofits to think about Given Tuesday. That's coming up.
Yes.
And it's coming up very, very soon. And so think about your subject line there. Remind them, actually, maybe I didn't put it in the wrong place because your subject line there, it's important. Tell them what they're going to be doing to help you. Help feed children, help save lives, help stop suicide, right? Do something so they know exactly what it is that your charity does in that Given Tuesday email. So, um, this is one that we have to talk about. We said earlier that maybe your open rate doesn't matter so much, but there are other analytics that do matter, right? Your open rate matters some. Your click through rate matters a lot. How many people are clicking through? Your are they actually buying something? Right? If you've got something that they want to buy, are they clicking through and then buying it? That's really important. So pay attention to those analytics. Pay attention to, you said it earlier, Anastasia, about about Monday? What were you saying?
Oh, yeah, so if Monday is generally a quiet day for your business, but you send an email on that day, and you say you send it on the second Monday of every month, and that happened, and you're always dead on the other Mondays, but on that day you get a lot of appointments. Maybe they didn't open the email, but they are calling you. So keep an eye out. Like when you send an email out, just see how it affects your business. See how
Right?
many times the phone's ringing or the emails are coming in.
Exactly. So not all of the analytics are on in the reports you get from your Roadly or Constant Contact. They're not in there
Mhm,
because they didn't open it. They just
mhm.
had that reminder. And a good example of this, we've probably shared this story before, but we had a client who woke up in the morning, it was raining outside, and we went, oh my gosh, we have to send out this email for him. And it was like, do you have puddles in your yard? And he received a call from them. And the guy said, yeah, actually, I have puddles in my yard. I've been meaning to call you. That ended up being a $15,000 contract. The guy never opened the email. He told him that. He says, that's some effective marketing because I didn't even open your email.
Yeah.
That's a pretty big deal.
And that one client, this goes back to ROI. So that one client has now paid for his email marketing for years from that one
Right.
client. So when you're thinking about, when you're talking about ROI, return on investment, what is your return on investment? How long does it take you to send out an email? How many people are you directly contacting? And then, what kind of business do you get out of it? If our Chimney Tech, will use him again, if he sends out an email and it gets one or two chimney inspections, just the chimney inspection, which is probably his lowest fee item, that's paid for that, well paid for that email. So, then you think about getting any kind of repairs or anything like that that can be very expensive. It's going to pay. It definitely pays for itself.
Absolutely,
We
absolutely, and
had
we see
another
this with
one.
everybody.
Another good example is the home store that you send an
Yes.
email out, and they sold. It was about, what was it about? You
It was
art?
they had an art sale coming up,
Hmm.
and they sold 20 pieces of art, to one person actually, which
To
was
one
really
person. Yeah,
interesting. So
yeah.
that's the thing. Think about that open rate. Okay, what if that person is the only person who opened the email, but they came in and bought 20 pieces of art? Then how much does your open rate really matter,
And
right?
I was talking to somebody the other day about the difference in between our business. This is an insurance agent, between our business and his business in regards to our BNI, our business networking. So I was saying we don't need as many referrals every year for it to be, a good investment for me to go to the meeting, because we're bigger ticket items. So depending on, so he needs a lot because he's transactional, a lot of smaller items. So depending on your business, that's the same thing with your emails. So
Absolutely.
you just don't need the volume. So you may have 500-600 people in your email list, and if only 10 people open it, but those 10 people give you a good amount of business, then it's worth it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So that's why that open rate, I go back to it. I harp on it a lot, but that's why it doesn't matter. It really doesn't. Actually, Anastasia, I think we've talked about this. Gary V, who I am not the biggest fan of, but just because he's all showboaty. But he talked about this one time. He said, what if the two people who opened your email were, one of them was just, it doesn't matter who it was, and the other was the head of NBC, right? And he saw your product and went, "Oh, what a difference that can make for you," right?
Hmm.
So it doesn't really matter how many people open it. It matters what the quality of people are who are opening, what their goal is, what they're going to buy from you, what they're going to give you. So, all right. So one thing we want to talk about, everybody says they do it, but they're like, I do it once in a while. I send them out once in a while. And as with absolutely everything else we do in marketing, consistency is important because you need people to see you over and over and over again. They're not going to buy that first time. They're probably not going to buy the second, third, fourth time. It may be the seventh time before they buy. So you need to make it consistent. And the easiest way to do that is to schedule your emails ahead of time. So there are a lot of ways to do this. One of the things I suggest is to make it easy for yourself. It's sort of like when you're trying to clean your house, you do the easy things first. Somebody told me years ago, because when I had little kids, walk around the house and pick up any trash. And it's unbelievable how much trash little kids can leave. You just find whole bunches of it. But it's an easy chore, and you're like, suddenly, oh, my house looks a lot neater without the trash or the dirty clothes, right? So do this. Go through first for every month and think, what email am I sending this month? In November, you're going to send a Thanksgiving post, a Thanksgiving email, right? In December, you're going to send a Christmas one. In New Year's, you'll send something, usually New Year's related, but maybe it's the trends for the coming new year or something else about the new year. In February, maybe you send out a Valentine's post. In March, you send out a spring post. So start thinking about just those are your simple ways to think of it. What are those things you can do? Make it easy. If you go ahead and schedule those, then the other ones kind of come along. You're going to find
Hmm.
it so much easier if you can create that. And we'll talk about that in just a little bit, creating a list specifically. So then email templates. Anastasia, you mentioned this because it's something that we do a lot and it is
Yeah.
really important.
So for our roofing, for our home services that can be impacted by rain. So when it rains, we're in Maryland, it rains a lot here. So we send this email out a lot. For our chimney guy, it's, do you have a leaky chimney? Are you seeing water coming down your chimney? For our roofing guy, actually this goes for the chimney guy too. Like, are you seeing dark spots on your ceiling? Because there could be water leaking into your roof. It could be the chimney or it could be the roof, or it could be a window
Exactly.
that's not doing properly. So we send these emails out because when it's raining and people are sitting at their house, they may be more likely to see it and therefore call. And I mean, we both, Chimney Tech and Quality have said that it works. People will
Absolutely.
see the email and then they remember. So have that ready. What does it look like? Because you know what? Most likely you're going to say the exact same thing every time. And we all get so many emails. Am I going to remember if the picture is the same or if the wording was the same from 2 months ago? No.
Right.
It's
No,
because 2 months ago it might not have been relevant to me, but today it is. So
absolutely. Same
you
thing
see things
for,
differently.
yeah, so same thing for snow days, right? We
Mhm.
work with Baltimore Coffee and Tea, and for Baltimore Coffee and Tea, there are times that their staff cannot get in, so they're going to close for the day, right? And so we send something out saying they're closed for the day, but we have that prepared ahead of time, so we're not
Mhm.
rushing around for all the clients who need to do that. And we can just say, okay, let's send that out. And for yourself, it's going to make it a lot easier if you have it. Same thing for hiring. Create a hiring one for hiring, and it could be, you could create one that says we're generally hiring, or you could create, say you're a restaurant, you're Cinco de Mayo, and you're like, we're hiring host staff right now, or we're hiring wait staff, or we're hiring kitchen staff. So maybe create three, but
Mhm.
create them so that when you need them, they're in there, and all you have to do is copy it and send it,
Yeah,
right? And I do wanna encourage you, copy it and send it so you still have it in there as a template.
definitely.
So, yeah,
And that way, if the thing is too, is if it's ready and you're not rushing, anytime you're rushing, you're more likely to make mistakes. You're more likely to either leave things out, typos or grammar mistakes. So by having it ready when you're clear-headed and you can have somebody else take a look at it real quick, then it's more likely to be correct and
absolutely.
have all the information in it. I got an email from my son's school this weekend about some quarantining, and I was reading the email and I'm like, okay, but there are certain things that you're missing. And I get it. He was
Right,
sending it out, not prepared, and I'm not criticizing them at all. But I'm like, these are the things that you can avoid if you have it ready. Like there are things that you might have to update in them, like dates or something. But for the most part, you can have templates. I mean, I love templates in general, just for my everyday emails.
oh,
But
yeah,
but
absolutely.
in when you're doing email marketing, like even having these templates that are already ready with the wording is one thing, but then make sure that your email, I like our emails to look the same every month too. So,
Right,
have a consistent branded look. Make sure your
absolutely.
colors are being used and your logos are in there and that the footer information is correct. So the templates are important. And then you can just copy the previous month that you did and just go in and change all the information that you want to change. But then it'll look the same. The fonts, the colors, everything.
Absolutely. All right, so we're gonna give you an actionable item now, and we hinted at it earlier. We said, think about your year. Think about what you're doing. So you wanna create 12 email subjects. That's all you need to do right now. After that, I want you to go in and create the emails. But for right now, let's just think about the subjects. What emails are you gonna send over the next 12 months? So, I told you, you're gonna do Christmas, you're gonna do Thanksgiving, you might do Hanukkah, you're gonna do something for the new year. I'll give you my favorite, which is trends for 2022, right? That's a
Mhm.
great New Year's post. Do that. Um, then go through the rest of the year. You're going to send out one for the 4th of July. You'll send out one for Mother's Day. You'll send out one for Father's Day, right? So think about all those things. That makes it super easy because remember, you're just, for the most part, trying to get them to know that you still exist, that you are there,
Mhm.
to remember you. But then I want to suggest that you think about what features and benefits you offer and add those posts as well. What are some things that you offer to your clients that are different than other people that they might want to buy or know more about right now? And then again, think about ways you can educate them. If you are a plumber, talk to them about, hey, winter's coming. These are the things to do to winterize your plumbing, right? If you are a landscaper, send them out things for preparing their garden for spring. Think about those sorts of things. What features and benefits can you offer, and what ways can you educate your clients? It's a huge way. And speaking of the what features and benefits do you offer? If you want to read an article on about trying to show those benefits and features to your clients, go to our blog. That's asmmdigital.com/blog, so that we will you will be able to read about that right there. So, Anastasia, do you have anything to add about creating those 12 subjects?
No, I mean, I think that, I think that's great. The subjects are great. And the thing is too, is that you can, I mean, just because you have the subject and like, Anne's saying Valentine's Day, right? The jeweler, he's going to push, maybe it's proposal time, like what kind of things does he see he's selling a lot of, or Mother's Day jewelry or, so depending on what you're doing. So just don't be too, you can be literal with it if you want to, but you can also be, take that and just change it a little bit to modify it. It depends on how creative you are and how it fits with your brand. Again, make sure everything fits with your brand. And, but for the most part, just if you have those 12 email subjects, it will make it easier when you sit down because you're not starting from nothing. You're starting from something, and that will trigger something to get you started.
Absolutely. That reminds me of, you don't be too literal, or it's reminding me of the zoo was it in Texas? I think it was the Texas Zoo, and Valentine's was coming up and they needed to do a fundraiser.
Yeah.
And so what they did for Valentine's and they raised way more money than they would have ever expected. They sold cockroaches, which doesn't sound like a very good Valentine's gift, but it wasn't for your Valentine. It was for the one who had dumped you. And you would buy a cockroach, and they would feed it to the specific animal, but you would buy the cockroach and name it the person who had dumped you, right? Your ex. And they had thousands and thousands of people do this. So it became a huge success for them because they thought Valentine's Day, but instead of thinking love, they thought, what about a broken heart? Right?
Yeah.
So, think differently, think outside the box, because you never know what's going to come from that. So, all right. So next week is our specialty. We're going to talk about social media. And we're going to give you some of our favorite tips, some of our favorite things to think about when you're thinking about social media, why you want to do it in the first place, where you should be, what time you should post, all these questions that we get asked 1,000 times. We're going to give you the answers to those. So this is going to be a really good week for you. If you have questions in the meantime, please do. You can go to our website, ASMMdigital.com, and send us a contact. Go to the contact page. You can send us an email from there. It's very, very easy. Also, Giving Tuesday is coming up. I am going to shamelessly ask that if you care about suicide prevention, please do go over and give us a donation there. Share our page. Do anything to support us. It's a relatively easy thing to do. We would really appreciate that. Anastasia, anything else before we go?
No, I think that this is, I guess the only thing I want to say is if you are collecting emails, please use them.
Oh my gosh. Yes.
Yeah. If you're collecting them, please use them. Just try it. It is not a very expensive investment. You
Absolutely.
can, I mean, it's like $20 or $30 a month for the, for the platform to send it, and it's so important. Today there are so many ways that we're all being communicated with, and you can choose to be like, I am not contributing to that, or you can choose to market your business.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I want to say too, you do not have to have hundreds and hundreds or thousands and thousands of emails for this to be effective. When we started our business emails going out, when we started our campaigns, we had 22 people, I think, on the list. I mean, now we have several hundred, but I'm good with how many we have. And I was good with 22 people because I want to reach my customers. I want to remind them I'm here, and I want to give them stuff. A lot of times what I'm giving them is stuff they like, what we do here, stuff they can put to use in their business, whether they hire us or not. I want to be able to do that. I want to be able to, and also
growing organically,
they call us.
Growing organically is great. And it is becoming, so outside of the US, it is actually, so in Europe, you can't just purchase an email list. And I highly recommend against purchasing an email list.
Oh yeah.
Because I think that if your open rates are very low, or your not your open rates, if your unsubscribe rates are very high, then the email platform may kick you off. That's
Right.
happened before because we had a client, I don't know where they got their email list from, and there were so many unsubscribes and people reporting it as spam that they got kicked off of the platform. So be
Yeah.
very careful where you're getting your emails from. Overseas, you actually people have to opt in twice in order to receive your emails. That is not the case here yet. But so if you have an email list, use it. It is
Right.
very effective.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in. We really appreciate you being here. It's always fun. I said at the beginning that I get rushed and Monday mornings are very rushy for us. But it's always fun to talk about it because we love what we do.
We do. We love what we do. And it does start off the week and now we're good to go.
Absolutely. All right, everybody. Have a great week. We will see you next Monday. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.